Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Gunner Shot में सबका स्वागत है. We're going to talk about the pause before the storm or the scramble for a ceasefire, whichever way you look at it. Let me at the outset welcome, let me put that. Let me welcome Sree 𝗟𝗡𝗏, General Dushyant, and of course I'm here. And what are you going to do? Something very different. And we're going to talk, is it just the war or something beyond? And I'm not going to talk too much at this point. I'm going to just hand it over to Sree 𝗟𝗡𝗏. Sir, please take it on. You do the anchoring.
Thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar, and welcome to the show, General Dushyant. And we have a lot of information to share today. Much of this is probably a new perspective. You want to watch this thing till the very end. It's coming across on the usual set of channels. Wherever you are watching, please subscribe to that channel if you have not already done so. So let's start the ball rolling with General Shankar. Sir, talk to us a little bit about the scramble for a ceasefire. Right now, some peace is holding, but the Strait of Hormuz is almost closed. Only 3 ships have passed through in the last 24 hours. I double-checked it just before coming online. So if the Strait of Hormuz doesn't open, Trump will say this is meaningless, this ceasefire. I'm just saying he's holding his tongue. I can feel it. So over to you, sir. Let's see how this thing plays out.
Yeah, let's see how this thing plays out. We're not going to talk as much of the ceasefire as the effects of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The ceasefire is something, in such a situation, it's going to be touch and go, some firing, some not firing. It's a negotiation and all that. We'll see where that goes. But I'm going to focus on something else. We're going to see what is the status of, Iran, where is it heading, and what is this, story all about. And then, of course, General Dushyant has got something even more interesting, and we need to listen to that, because whatever he's going to speak is an outflow of what's going to happen here. So let me get into a small presentation which I put together, and then we'll go into the whole thing. Look at it. See, this is what General Dan Kane has put out, right? US forces have destroyed approximately 80% of air defense and, sunk more than 80% of its, or 90% of its regular fleet, 90% of Iranians' naval, everything, weapon facilities, missile facilities, everything destroyed. It's a terrific beating. It's not a matter of who won the war or who lost the war. Obviously, Iran has been hammered. It's holding out is a different thing. This is not a Robin Hood story where you hold out and you're crowned a successor. You're looking at a nation whose army is completely destroyed and vulnerable. Okay, their leadership is decimated. Whatever leadership comes out is not going to be unstable. It is politically isolated, financially unstable. Got no finances to talk of, right? Infrastructure is destroyed, widespread destruction. People are polarized. We don't know whether the regime has the people with it or not. It might drum up a few people to come. Some fanatics might come on the street for it. But what about the armed people, right? Who are the normal people? Will they, right? Where's the political setup in the country? It's gone. Do the mullahs have that power or the pull to take this country through? It doesn't matter which government comes in there. It's going to be a weak government. I mean, the fact that people are polarized is, the fact. Israel has penetrated all forms of all strata of Israeli society. Iranian society. That's what makes it polarized. And then the Israeli threat is omnipresent. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, and then whether we have a ceasefire or not, okay, let's say there is a ceasefire and it's not a very durable ceasefire, or it's not a stable ceasefire. You're going to have Netanyahu and Israel. He's very clearly said, we have still some goals to accomplish, and we will achieve them either through agreement or through renewal of war. So for him, war is not out of the table, and we are ready to do so whenever necessary. His finger is on the trigger already. Okay, and the ceasefire is hardly holding. Right, and Netanyahu has not been in, and Israel have not been in favor of any ceasefire. They've just joined this ceasefire because, okay, they've deferred to US. So at any point of time, Israel can, undermine this ceasefire. We should understand this. Okay, in this condition, this is the 10 points which US is supposed to have accepted and which has been thrashed. We don't know which are the 10 points. There are 3-4 versions of the ceasefire loafing around or purported to be loafing. I will not talk of each of these, which in any case, US, the President Trump has said, throw them into the garbage. Okay, so where does that leave us? What are the critical aspects of a peace deal? Okay, let's look at it. Control of Hormuz Strait. I mean, who controls the Hormuz Strait at the end of this war will be critical. Will it be with Iran? Will it be with Oman? Will it be with a joint control? Or will it be a regional architecture or a global architecture? Because before this, no one controlled it. So that's going to be critical. And control of Hormuz Strait is going to be critical for one more point of view. The complete black oil and the dark fleet of Iran will now get monitored. And that's connected with sanctions, which is at number 4. If Iran comes out of the sanctions, will the parallel global economy, which started coming into play through dark fleet movement, sanctioned oil, discounted oil from Venezuela, Russia, and Iran going to China, will that unravel? If that unravels, there's going to be a huge, if USA succeeds in unraveling that, that itself is a victory. Forget about the rest of the things. And how complicated it is, I'm sure General Dushyant will tell. Of course, nuclear enrichment. Can nuclear enrichment be stopped? And can this 60% enriched fuel be brought on board, or rather overground? Yeah, you can give it back to them. Will Iran be allowed to have a nuclear program, even if it's peaceful after all this? All that will depend on the state of the government. If the government is unstable, no one will, allow Iran to have that. If no one allows Iran to have that, right, there will be war again. Israel will not agree. So it's a complicated thing. So this whole story is, and from the beginning I've been saying, is operating at a couple of levels. One is the local Iran, West Asia war, the way we think. But there's another level at which this is operating. What about sanctions? Will Iran be taken off sanctions or not? If sanctions are to be taken out, what are the conditions? And they have to be completely political conditions. Will IRGC be dismantled or whatever? Artesh, they got 3 or 4 different forces, IRGC, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, everything. So what will be the future of all this? What about proxies? Hezbollahs and Houthis, financing them, controlling through all that. Because Iran, at the end of the day, was a central figure in many things in this region. It permeated power far and wide and beyond its borders through different methods. We know that. We've all discussed it. What will happen? What's the future of that? And what's the outlook for this regime as a whole? Will they get back? Will that cozy relationship of Russia, China, Iran come back? Venezuela is conclusively out of the equation. In fact, if you look at it, I've been repeating, the complete Latin America system, the communist system and the left socialist system of Latin America has virtually been dismantled. And there's no doubt at this point of time, the discounted oil pipeline to China has been broken. But having said that, at this point of time also, it is India and China who are vying for Iranian oil. And Iran is responding to both. So everything is not very clear. And I think we're going to see many things. This ceasefire is not going to be easy. Violation of ceasefires are going to happen, right? and many more stories are going to have. Will this be a pause or a return to combat? Everything is on the cards. But at the same time, what happens to the dark flows of or a parallel global economy? These are the major questions which we'll have to now start looking at. In the heat of the war, we stopped looking at it. Now that there's a pause, it's time we started looking at it. So back to you, Sree. We can't hear you.
Thank you, sir. I don't know how many of you viewers from P Gurus remember this. About a year and a half ago, I had two guests, Alex Trainer and Simon Hunt. Alex is out of Monaco, Europe, and Simon Hunt lives in Dubai. And they were joking that, look, the world doesn't know how much unsanctioned oil is passing through the Straits of Malacca. Basically, what he was hinting was that China was getting a lot of oil, and that stuff is not getting recorded. We were talking about a different topic, which was the de-dollarization, but this came along because it is one of the other ways in which the dollar was being challenged. So we have China doing many different ways in which they were trying to keep their costs down, and then using that, leveraging that to build electric capacity to the fullest extent possible. In fact, I'm hearing that the new ones are all LNG based, not coal based. They're electric generation plants. But that's okay, because they thought that they had a 30-year deal with Qatar and so on and so forth. There's a totally new perspective emerging from this war. I think General Shankar hinted it. Now let's invite General Dushyant. Sirji, you have also got a presentation to share with us. Over to you, sir.
You're muted.
You are muted.
Yeah, thank you, Iyerji. In fact, General Shankar has laid out the entire stage of what the war situation is as of today. The focus, as we speak, is more on getting some kind of a ceasefire going, whether it is for 2 weeks or whether it is for 1 week or whether it will continue to prolong or whether it will hold. Those are the possibilities which are there out in the open, with no strategic thinker as of today actually being able to predict as to what will be the outcome of the Friday talks between JD Vance and the others. JD Vance has already gone on record today in a tweet saying that Pakistan was passing different messages to different entities, in the sense what suited Iran, they passed it on to Iran, and what suited the Americans, they passed it on to the Americans. And finally, when the announcement was made, the US guys were actually, they have felt that they have been shortchanged. I think that's the way they are looking at it, because the 10-point plan essentially is a pro-Iranian plan, out and out a pro-Iranian plan. And there are a number of loopholes in that which will actually favor the Iranians, such as Jan Shankar has already mentioned about it. The first and the foremost is the Israelis are damn unhappy, and they showed that unhappiness by attacking Lebanese Hezbollah in very large numbers, in terms of intensity, in terms of duration. They have suffered a lot of casualties, and probably that is the reason why what you mentioned right in the beginning during your opening remarks, that only 3 ships have actually crossed the Strait of Hormuz, because that was one of the major conditions which the Iranians had said, that okay, we will adhere to ceasefire provided the ceasefire extends to the proxies. Now, in this case, since the proxies were attacked, so they've also put their regulators back into place as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned. So, Strait of Hormuz remains the backbone of the ceasefire. And Israelis are not part of the ceasefire talks. That is again a big issue, which in my opinion, is likely to have a lot of hindrances in the stable ceasefire. So that's about the ceasefire. There are many other issues, such as nuclear enrichment. The Iranians say that why should they be hampered as far as the peaceful use of enrichment of nuclear facilities are concerned. So, because you've seen an exchange of fire between Bushehr and Dimona. So these are very tricky situations as far as this war goes. So taking a purely a neutral view of it, I don't think the ceasefire as of today stands a very bright chance of holding on for more than a week or 2 weeks at the most, if they are continue to going to violate the various conditions which have been laid out. As far as the situation of Iran is concerned, that Iran actually has been uh, badly hit. They are at the verge of almost getting decimated. That has been highlighted by Gen Shankar. But it is here that I have got a deck which shows that how the Iranians have actually been evading the global system to be what they are as of today in terms of their missile preparedness, their drone preparedness. They also tried the air force getting updated, but then they realized that it was not possible. Su-35's transfers were attempted, but that got sidetracked because of virtually it being very difficult to transport such a system without getting noticed. So they kept their transfer of equipment to a symmetric level, focusing more on the ballistic missiles and the Shahid drones. And this has been confirmed by many sources that Shahid drone and the missiles are in a place called Special Economic Zone Alowa. It's there on my slide. There it's a pool, which is running around like a cyclic thing. The initial technology etc went to the special economic zone. They upscaled the manufacturing to 90%, and after doing that 90% upscaling, they have sent back to the Iranians what they want, and they have been using the same thing opposite the Ukrainian front. So it's a mutually satisfying kind of an arrangement which has been made. So can I have my deck on so that I can explain? So this is the if you see the map, I don't know if they are I mean, see this
Give
slide.
the full screen, General Shankar. Give him the full screen, sir.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So that you I mean others can also see it as to
Yeah.
what is this architecture of the global evasion, what I am talking about. The Western economic sanctions intended to isolate rogue regimes have instead catalyzed the creation of a system which might, I'm not saying that it is possible in the near term, but which might have a serious impact on the dollarization or on the dollar trade. So they have virtually created a network both in terms of finances and also in terms of supply chains. So and it is all based on the fuel pipeline between Iran, China, and Russia. In return, Iranians and the Russians both are getting the Chinese technology. And surprisingly, in this entire architecture, money is actually not moving most of the time. It is the bartering which is taking place that is becoming more and more interesting. So I go to the next one. Now, here, if you see, China is the decisive enabler. It is at the center of their so called evasive architecture. And what it does is that it is also included North Korea into it. So a few days back, we were talking of the Krink alliance out of as far as this northern hemisphere is concerned. That is quietly taking shape. What the Chinese are doing is that with Russia, they have established a no limits partnership. Of course, there are nuances in this partnership which we will not go into purely because that's a separate subject. With Iran, they have signed that 25-year cooperation agreement by which they are taking 90% of all the Iranian oil. Now, that's a huge thing. And as far as North Korea is concerned, it takes 98% of the total trade is accounted for between China and North Korea. So it is creating these two, three so-called hubs as part of its economic structure. So how is it doing it? The pipeline is the Iranian flow of oil that is going out from Iran to the various countries, the ones which I showed earlier. 2.2 million barrels per day accounts for 21.5% of the total Chinese crude imports. That's a huge amount. And that is being used as in a number of ways to give back Iran the necessary technology for manufacturing of the missiles and the drones. The Russians are doing the technology flow. Iranians are doing the oil flow. That is the matrix which is being followed. Technology by the Russians, and through the Chinese, and the oil flow by Iran to China. Russia doesn't require the oil. So with the Russians, they are doing a technology flow, in the sense whatever Iran is developing, it is going to Russia, and the Russians are upgrading it to manufacturing scale and sending it back to Iran. Whether they are using the Caspian route or whether they are using the shadow shipping, that's a separate entity by itself. So if you look at the shadow network, now the shadow network comprises of the dark fleets. We have been talking about it. 17% of the global oil tankers are under this net. And what they do is they do a mid-sea transfer, and thereafter they relabel it in a third country, made in Malaysia, made in XYZ country. So that removes that sanction restriction that it is coming from China, or it is coming from some other country. So countries which are not sanctioned, they are being used as for relabeling. And after the relabeling, then there are teapot refineries. Oil arrives at independent teapot refineries clustered in China, from where there's a place called Shandong province, which processes up to 4 million barrels per day. The domestic market is also insulated by the state-owned majors from direct secondary sanctions. In between, Americans had levied the secondary sanctions if they were found to be using this. So all this method has been developed over a period of time from the Russia-Ukraine war. It's not a development during the war itself. It is a well-established 2022 system which is now in place and operating. So it has a shadow circuit. And then what about the money? Money is being directed through CIPS, a direct clearing of China's cross-border interbank payment system. 176 direct participants. We were just talking of 4 or 5. Look at the participants who are there as part of this direct clearing. Then they also have a barter and infrastructure. Capital never crosses the borders. Example, 8.4
General Dushyant, 1 second. General Shankar, can you take out the ticker in the bottom, because it is cutting off some of the bottom text?
Okay, I'll just do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just 1 second, General Dushyant.
Okay.
This is gold. Back to you, sir.
So what is happening? The second method which they are using is barter and infrastructure. So capital never crosses the borders. So how do you intercept it? Example, 8.4 billion in Iranian oil revenue was swapped in 2024 to finance Chinese contractors building infrastructure in Iran via Thaksin and Sinsor. So this is the kind of method by which they are trying to overcome this network of the Western sanctions. Hong Kong has created a number of fronts. I mean, I was reading it. This is what I have extracted out of a news portal article of On Air, and they have gone into a lot of details. So I've just culled out some important aspects out of it and have tried to put it into some place. And the exchange is through, as far as Iran is concerned, they have the Sadaf exchange, fed by the MOD of Iran, which is MOD of Ministry of Defense of Iran, supply division. They are the ones who are feeding the money through this. It goes to Hong Kong cover companies, and thereafter it is created into white money, which they can now procure anything through the white money also. So they have created a good system of barter, of making black into white through shell and front companies. And Hong Kong has become the big market of this kind of a thing, not the earlier markets, like Mauritius, etc., which were there. Then what is happening is that the evasion cycle, therefore, is input is by states on China. Thereafter, assembling is done by the Iranians. Iran proxy networks utilize smuggled precursor Chinese semiconductors to manufacture 𝗤𝗏 series and the ballistic missiles. Scaling and deployment is done here by the Russians. and then the Russians send it back to the to Iran, as well as use it for themselves. So this whole cycle of evasion, of ensuring that the Iranians over a period of 4 or 5 years have built a very strong manufacturing hub, manufacturing system at surge scales during war, pre-war, and possibly they'll continue to do so unless they target the Russian facility which is there in El Buga factory in Tat, I can't even pronounce it, Tatarstan, manufacturing 90% of shayad domestically, targeting 6,000 per year. The Americans can't even think of this kind of facility being created as of today. They tried doing reverse engineering of Shahid 136, developed a better drone called Lucas, but I have not seen Lucas being used in large number. They are using it, but the capacity to manufacture it in such large numbers is possibly not there, because they are fighting against a system which has been working for the last 4 years. So they have gone into full manufacturing mode. So as far as the evasion toolkit adapts to unique needs of rogue states, here what Russia has done is that it's price cap evasion via shadow fleet. So you know that earlier there was a limit under which you could procure weapons, so procure the oil. Now oil price limit has been overcome through the shadow fleet. Then Iran, 90% of oil has been absorbed by the Shandong refinery in China, so it doesn't have to go to India or any other place for refining. North Korea is doing the coal smuggling and ship-to-ship transfer in Chinese waters. Similarly, financial bypass is taking place through netting system and RMB dominated. I spoke to you about, showed to you their shadow banking via Hong Kong, which is the route for getting their money within themselves. I agree that it's a very, very narrow band of three to four countries can't really create change in the world. But there are, as per reports, 176 of them trying to use this particular system. So slowly and slowly, I feel that even the financial bypass may become a very large threat for the West unless they do something about it, which I'll be covering in the next two slides. Technology and military transfers import 90. Russia import 90% of machine tools and microelectronics from China in exchange for oil. And as far as Iran is concerned, it smuggled drone components and chemicals precursors for rocket fuel via China and Russia. And North Korea, of course, it has a procurement network operating freely in Dandong and Beijing. So this is the way they have been trying to build their military strength through shadow shipping, through financial bypass, and through barter systems. These are the three key areas on which they are functioning. So what should the Western guys do? Secondary sanctions, shifting from primary embargoes to targeting the facilitators. Now they have started actually acting against these shadow shipping, but how much success they have achieved, that one has to see as the time goes by. They have tried to intercept certain shadow ships, including some of the Indian ships were also part of this particular initiative, but then the war started, so this has possibly taken a back seat. They have expanded the export controls, trying to restrict this so-called bypassing of the financial system. Entity list evolution, Department of Commerce adapting to opaque legal systems by adding entire physical address in Hong Kong to the entity list to disrupt the rotating shell companies. What happens is, if they find that a particular shell company has been busted, within a week they create another shell company. That's the speed with which the Iranian MOD AFL is working in conjunction with the with the Chinese PLA, and which is opening a new, fresh cell company in a different name in Hong Kong. Finally, interagency task force, disruptive technology, strike force, coordinating efforts to dismantle transshipment schemes and seize dual-use component before export. So mid-sea transfers are also being targeted, but these are very painstaking efforts, to monitor so many ships. 17% of the ships are doing the shadow. They are the dark network ships. To monitor them is a very difficult task. They are trying to do it, but whether US alone can do it, that's a $1 million question. And that is probably one of the reasons why even the US president has been asking the NATO countries to actually start indulging in this kind of an activity, so that you can prevent this so-called evasive trade which is going on, which is a kind of convenient method of combining oil, combining food, combining high-end technology and oil into one big system through multiple processes like bartering, like you called bypassing the financial systems, and mid sea transfers, where labeling is done to make sure that it evades uh, the sanctions list imposed by the West and the Americans. So finally, I would say economic statecraft must target the integrated network if they have to succeed. If they don't do that, this network will grow, and it will grow only with time, with so many participants taking part into this particular network. So to prevent the rapid regeneration of adversarial military capabilities, allied policies must pivot from punishing state actors to systemically dismantling the logistics, finance, and the technology nodes that connect them. And these nodes are growing by the day. If more countries come into this particular network, I think it will be very difficult for it will almost be a parallel trade network where they won't require the Western systems. Of course, you can't be totally disconnected, but they will find some ways and means to ensure that they are also doing trade in the white and trade in the black. So with that, I close my presentation to say that there are a number of factors which are involved in arriving at a very robust ceasefire agreement, because these are the kind of back end things which have been created over a period of time, which is giving that resilience to the Iranians to continue to prolong this war, backed by Russia and China, essentially. So I'll stop here.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Believe it or not, our viewers from 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 would have read articles that came back from as early as 2016. Even from our early days, we were tracking how this, number 2 oil gets transferred. We were showing an example wherein ISIS was controlling the oil coming out of Mosul. Kurdistan area, ISIS was in control. So what ISIS would do is they would take that oil that's unsanctioned, that is sanctioned oil, you can't sell it. So what they would do is they would take that oil, smuggle it across Turkey with the blessings of the Erdogan family, and bring it into the Mediterranean Sea. And then from there, they will put it into these shadow fleet tankers. They perfected this technology 10 years ago. That's what I'm trying to say. And these tankers would make huge 𝗏𝗏s in the Mediterranean Sea. 𝗏𝗏s. The reason they're doing those 𝗏𝗏s was once in a while, one tanker will come, and then at that time they'll turn off the transponder, and that tanker will take some oil and it will go. And then again, the transponder comes on. So US was watching this thing. What the hell is going on? Why is the transponder going off and on, off and on, off and on? And this was the reason, which is why that Baghdadi guy had to go. I mean, there is a reason for all these things, viewers. Some of you think that, I'm a Trump buck, that 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 is. No, look, there is so much that we all don't know. Today, another thing, I'm a little emotional here. The reason is I've been flagging this for a long time. I flagged how shell companies are formed and closed within 24 hours, so that you cannot see how the money went from place A to place B. I've also talked about how this is being exploited even inside India, and also talked about shadow banking. 3 or 4 episodes, viewers, have done shadow banking. Today, General Dushyant, General Shankar, shadow banking is close to $240 trillion. Traditional banking, the banks that we go to, SBI, $250 trillion. Sir, what you said about a parallel economy is already here. And this tradition, this shadow banking is being supported by, of all things, pension system funds, which are huge now from Europe, from United States, and these people are looking for a slightly bigger return than what they are getting in the traditional investment sources. So what do? They go and look at this place. Oh, you're getting it more money, because if you put money here, then your return is higher. In fact, I've even talked about one new method wherein the producer doesn't front the money for producing the next set of goods. Somebody else is providing the money. I even showed you on this. So those of you who are watching P Gurus regularly, you can probably pick up on what is really going on here. And this is a huge, huge problem. Why should America alone think about it? India should be worried about it. Europe should be worried about it. Everybody who has had banking established in a certain way should be concerned about this. Sir?
Yeah, I go with you, but let me put it in a different manner. 2-3 points. First and foremost, the parallel system, global system, is it new? We always had a black economy.
Hawala is there. Hawala was there.
Black economy and Hawala and all those was already there. So what has happened? That at one point of time it was said the parallel economy of India was as much as the white economy in India, right? So I'm not very shall I say astonished by the amount of black money which is flowing around, or a parallel economy which is being built. And this parallel, we call it parallel economy, we call it dark economy, we call it everything. But you look at it from China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea point of view, they're having a alternate economy. Isn't that what Xi Jinping has always been saying? I mean, that's what he's saying. He said, I'm trying to build a new thing, yuan-denominated thing. And he was doing it. So all this business of BRICS banks and all which Russia was floating was to take this economy into that, because at the end of the day, all these countries, these 3 countries plus more who are part of this black economy were part of the BRICS, except North Korea, everyone else is there. So, I mean, if you think Dubai is not part of the black economy, well,
Turkey also, I think. Turkey has been blocked. Yeah.
The only thing which I would like to add here is, sir, that while earlier the parallel economy or the black economy was there, but the kind of state support now which they are getting,
that's the point.
That is making it more worrisome. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt about it. But let me come to a different point. And this point goes back to anchorage. It goes back to the meet between Trump and Putin and anchorage. Was something decided there? Because whether you like it or not, historically, Russia was never been a nation country. It's more a European country, right? The connection, the natural connections between Russia and the rest of the world were through Europe. And you might say Russia has been doing this, all that, and it has got an industrial base, it's got gas, it's got everything. But just imagine for Russia to sell oil to India, it has to come halfway around the globe and sell it. Whereas selling it to Europe, Germany and all is just next door. So isn't it just the way we want oil from Iran? Even Russia wants to sell oil to Europe. And it wants to get back to its track. Why should it go through all this? Where in this, there was one clear winner, China. China was getting discounted oil and selling back technology at a hefty premium. And it's a double whammy for other countries. The other countries were okay with it till such time, they had no other choice. But given another choice, would they stick to this or come out of it? And I thought Russia has been aiming to get out of this, because for the past 4-5 years, many people have been saying that, Russia is the number 2 junior partner of China, which Russia doesn't like. Right? And I think that meeting in Anchorage, the American media went, gaga over it, saying nothing happened, Ukraine war didn't stop. They focused on Ukraine war. Probably Mr. Trump achieved something more which we don't know. And okay, why am I saying this? He achieved something more. You do the backward integration. See, no one expected anything to happen in Venezuela. Okay, but it happened. That was the first story. It broke. It broke the back of the communist movement in Latin America. It kicked China out of Panama Canal. I get back to the centrality of China in this whole thing. The centrality of the China-US competition in this whole story we should not forget. Everyone thinks China is pervasive, it does 3 warfare strategy, 4 warfare strategy and all that. But America is as good at it, or in fact better, they pass masters at it. So that's where it started. And then here, right, one way of looking at it is Iran has fought hard and it's given a knock to US. In fact, today I was at Ransamvad where the chief, army chief, naval chief, everyone spoke, and a few speakers did say, see, look at US, how difficult it is. It is now going after a peace deal. It's trying its best to get into a peace deal. So the tendency was to think that it has suffered a military defeat. That people have to rethink. It might have suffered a military defeat. Okay, let's classify whatever happened in the past 36, 37 days, now 41 days in USA, between USA and Iran, is a military defeat for USA in one manner. But look at the political points which USA has garnered. Russia is now on record to say, I want to get back into the dollar economy. And they are not happy with China. On that, let's not have doubts. The Venezuelan oil is fully now diverted to India. In fact, Venezuelan government has put out a statement to say, we want India to come and export more oil, or get more oil and export it out. Out of that 800,000 barrels per day which they are now getting, I think about 350,000 barrels are coming to India alone. And the rest of their old thing, but very little additional oil is going to USA. So China has lost that market completely, or that source completely. Now look at the Russian oil is off sanctions. If Russian oil is off sanctions, he's selling at premium. I won't say premium, he's selling it at market rates. Now, if he's selling at market rates, the dark fleet already gone. What's the use of the dark fleet? Why will he use dark fleets today? Why will he go into a parallel economy? It begs a question. And if in this deal, that's why I had said, what about sanctions? The deal is not anymore. There's no territorial deal in this deal between USA and Iran. It's all about military, stopping the firing, exchange of fire and all that. This is a non-contact battle, kinetic battle. The deal is political. So if this deal, the sanctions are taken off Iran is completely incentivized not to support China. And like General Dushyant said, who's the sutradar of this parallel economy? It's China. Why?
China.
Why is it sutradar? Because it is the heavyweight economy, second heavyweight economy of the world, whether we like it or not. I keep saying China is going to go down, all that. I agree. It will go down eventually, but it will not collapse. It still remains a heavyweight economy. So, right, that heavyweight economy is now being drained of resources. Even now, Iran is not on sanctions. The oil sanctions are taken off. And they're trying to sell oil to whom? To India and China again. China is now buying at price. So in a way, the parallel economy is on the verge of a collapse. This is dark sea shipping and all. Why would dark sea shipping happen now? It will be state to state. So if Iran today, problem with Iran, let me put it this way. Iran might be off sanctions, but whom can it sell oil to? Because there are no financial systems to pay Iran. I mean, Iran is only off oil sanctions, not financial sanctions. So there's even if India wants to buy oil from Iran, India doesn't know how to pay. Of course, we have a method, that old rupee deal we had. It was an overboard deal where money used to go into UCO Bank in, I think, Ahmedabad or Bombay or someplace, and from there Iran could buy anything from the Indian market at market prices. Right? They could buy, they could tender, do anything at rupee value, and they needed a lot of things from India, so it suited. So is
The
that
UCO
going
Bank,
back?
UCO Bank,
UCO
Calcutta.
Yeah,
Calcutta.
Calcutta. Okay, fine. I mean, I didn't know which branch but it was a certified financial system. In fact, the only two countries which have a certified financial system with Iran are India and China. So, to a large extent, what General Dushyant has said is actually the war is all about that and less about Iran. And to achieve all that, you have to break Iran's military. Has it been broken? I think yes. Without the Iran, look, everyone says Iran controls the Hormuz Strait. So far, USA has not blocked the Hormuz Strait. What if USA blocks the Hormuz Strait tomorrow? Anyway, it's blocked. Block it. Then what happens? And you look at the future. In the future, a lot of people are talking of alternate routes to the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. If that comes through, and 𝗏, that's 𝗏. There's no other way I can put it. If 𝗏 comes through, then what will be the status overall? So, a lot in the ceasefire, the ceasefire is just not about US and Iran. It's not just about the Gulf countries. We've today not focused on the Gulf countries, but their complete economies will be dependent on the outcome of the ceasefire. So I go with what the American side is saying today. Those 10 points are completely not acceptable to, USA. Leave the security point of view. From the financial point of view, the political point of view, and the commercial point of view, it's not be acceptable. So we are living in interesting times. We'll see where this whole thing goes. Back to you, Sree Iyerji.
Thank you so much, sir. General Dushyant, congratulations to you. You're taking P Guru's Gunner Shot and Class Channel discussions to a whole new level, and this really augurs well for everybody who's watching all these channels, because we have decoded something that is not apparent. Yes. I have done bits and pieces. I never try to connect the dots. You have done it today. Thank you so much, sir. I'd like you to answer one question here. See, what has happened, and I said this thing when I was trying to compare shadow banking with traditional banking. Yeah. What has happened is shadow banking relies on traditional banking a lot. Yes. Without traditional banking, you can't have shadow banking. So yes, this untying of these two, in your opinion, how hard or easy is it? Like, I'll give you a simple example. Leveraging has become so much in the United States industries. Leveraging to the hilt. Good companies were asked, people came in and said, okay, we are going to increase the yield to your shareholders. What they did was they forged these good functioning companies to take on a lot of debt. And that debt was financed by shadow banking. This is just an example. I'm sure there are parallels in every sector of the thing. So, question, sir, is how does shadow banking get completely decoupled from traditional banking? How do you think this is going to play out, in your opinion?
Okay, so I'll compare this with an example which I had worked on, and I took out an article also on this when I was a colonel, and that was related to Hawala banking. I was doing some terror financing
parallels are there.
Program in the US. So there I did an analysis and I realized there were 2-3 very good suggestions, but can we now apply those suggestions to the shadow banking, which is now being perfected by these state the recognized states of the world? That has become a hurdle. In the Hawala, the states were not directly involved. They were not openly involved. They were not actually professing anything like Hawala. So what I had suggested at that time was make Hawala legal. right? If you made hawala legal, then perforce it comes in the open. And if it comes in the open, then you have a transparency. And if you have a transparency, you can choke it, you can encourage it, you can block it, you can do anything which you want to do. Slowly, this kind of a attitude was adopted by people, but that didn't yield much result. So what they did was they made the traditional banking much more easier, much more convenient, much more faster because of the digitization. So that delay of transferring money on the white channel, cutting of too much of commission of transfer, etc., those things got blown away, and the open banking, like open money transfers like Western Union, etc., they started coming in, and that whole hawala system is by and large collapsed. Right now, if you apply the same kind of a model here onto the so-called state-sponsored shadow banking, you have to have a little different approach to it. And here I feel that the only way to do so is that you have to do certain amount of force, certain amount of disruptions by the people who don't want the, or the countries which are getting affected by this shadow banking. So in this case, the West and the countries which are unable or suffering because of the shadow banking, or because of the black transactions which are taking place below the radar, they have to increase their intelligence. They have to continue to keep peddling, I say, mowing the grass. You have to keep mowing the grass, keep looking at the shell companies, whether they're coming out for 24 hours or 48 hours. It will become a battle between the good and the bad. So mowing the grass is something what you have to do. Keep chipping at it. Keep chipping at whether the shadow shipping is there. I suggested that in shadow shipping, you have to get the entire global world together, which is on the other side, and start monitoring these ships. Moment you start monitoring them, you can cash them and price them. Can you do so when you start putting your own people under sanctions? That's another big question. Why have you targeted to the Indians? First, you tell the Indians to, okay, you will buy oil from Russia. Then you say you will not buy oil from Russia. So they also get willy-nilly kind of sucked into the shadow shipping or shadow banking. The
Yeah, four votes that. Yeah.
yeah. So it is also about ensuring that the policies are uniform. And for that, my long-term solution to me is that let's look at alternate robust solutions. For example, you talked about the oil itself, Strait of Hormuz. Gen Shankar said block the Strait of Hormuz. Now, blocking the Strait of Hormuz again will lead to unauthorized methods of people going in and taking out the oil from wherever they want to do. My sense is that look at it from a long-term perspective, create a network of pipelines in the Gulf. Let them go into either the Red Sea or beyond the Oman coastline, or go northward through the IMEC corridor, through Haifa, through pipelines, and create an alternative which does not become a choke point like what it has become. Malacca, we actually react. Malacca Strait is a choke point. We block Malacca Strait, but there are two, three more straits down the line, in the Indian Ocean, Sunda, Lombok. Let's start looking at them in a very, very serious manner as an alternative, with the Australians and the Indian controlling it. So I think what we need to do is a much more going back to the global system, where people connect together, countries connect together, and start making the our international system more robust. Unless we make the international system more robust, we are not going to yield any results, because this is now the states getting involved into it. In the terrorism, I said the next wave will not be radical Islam, it will be international actors. And these international actors are Palantir, Elon Musk. These are the guys who are going to control the world. Just watch my. I'm telling this out of last 20 years of study that radical Islam is now going to, especially after Iran's fall, the radical Islam is going to take a beating. It is going to take a beating. A lot of people will be now looking at alternate means, getting away from this kind of a trend of resorting to Islamic violence. Violence will continue, but it may be in a different format. It may be in a different mode. So shadow banking, to my mind, needs a whole of a world approach. Unless we do that with a fair play, unless we do that, only reason is because the states have started adopting it. Had the states not started adopting it, it would have been easier to deal with it like the Hawala, where the states, FATF, etc., a lot of infrastructure which was created to make the Hawala absolutely redundant. Now, who's going to create the FATF kind of a arrangement for checking on the shadow bankers? There will always be some state, some country which will say, no, I don't agree with this kind of a system. So mowing the grass is a tactical solution, and long-term solution is that let's revert back to global systems of international order as far as banking is concerned. Let's create a FATF kind of an organization looking at shadow banking. So if a particular country is demanding a World Bank loan, apply all those restrictions, all those checks on them. Get them on their knees. They will start behaving. So I mean, off the cuff, I can only think of these 2-3 measures: mow the grass, create an international system independent of US, because one country-led system will always suffer from this, skepticism from the other countries. To have a little more wider system acceptable to a larger group of countries on the lines of FATF, which will then control these countries through the loans, etc., which these people try to apply for, and extend it to the Asia Development Bank also. Why hesitate in getting the BRICS on board? That is where India can also play a role. So if somebody is not keen on joining the system, you can go ahead and be part of that shadow banking. You'll find shadow banking narrowing its space. To make the space so narrow that the vital systems are up in the air. This is a non-technical, non-economic answer, but I feel that a little bit of a non-economic answer is always a better way to deal with systems which have become much more deeply embedded into into this international trade. WTO has gone. WTO has absolutely disappeared. Why aren't the nations taking some steps? Europe is trying to fight a NATO-US war only. Let's start fighting let's start creating a international organization for economic trading. Why not? It's high time. When a system falls to the nadir, it can only go up, it can't come down. So let's find a upward trend to that. I think I'll stop here.
Thank
For
you so much, sir.
lack of any brilliant ideas.
Yeah, fine.
No, this is brilliant. Nothing short of. General Shankar, if it's okay with you, shall we take some questions now? We have a lot of questions.
Let's take some questions. A lot of them, but we'll take a few. Okay, at the outset, I'd like to thank George for becoming a YouTube member. Also, Nagarajan Gundurao for becoming a YouTube member. Right. Looks like there's a divergence of strategic vision between US and Israel. US is fine with the regime as long as it controls the oil and gas, but Israel wants decimation of this regime.
General Dushyant, if you would like to take that one, then we'll go back.
I'll take this one and request your leave, because I have to now prepare for my journey.
Okay, fine, no problem.
I'll take this one. Looks like there is a divergence of strategic vision between US and Israel. I mean, there is a difference of aims. That there is no doubt about it. US is fine with the regime as long as it's controlling the oil and gas. See, US interests are much more global. Israeli interests are. I heard the Israeli one of our big officials and serving official saying that if Iran threatens us, we believe that it is going to threaten us. So therefore, our aim is to remove that threat. That's an extreme position of Israel. Now, a nation which is much more
I think his internet got disconnected because there was a power outage.
Okay, fine, no problems. We'll go to the
Why
next.
don't you go ahead and
yeah. What we'll do is we'll now alternate between Shree and Sir. Yeah, General, should India not play a bigger role given that our energy expats and exports to and from GCC is at stake? We should not let Pakistan mediate. It will gain importance with US GCC and it'll take up GNK again. Yeah, your view on this, sir.
Satish, actually what India is doing is the right thing to do. Look, Pakistan took up the mediation. What did they do? They made a mess of it. Even before serious talks have started, they've already made a mess of it. And it's just that US wants somebody else to do it. And these guys, if you tell them jump, they'll ask how high. That they're being used like a washroom facility or something of that, in the way I see it. And India will find a way out of this one. In fact, India always works best when there are crises. And this is an energy crisis for India. I'm sure India will find a way out. I don't think India needs to get involved there because they need India more than India needs them. That's how you should always operate. And why they need India? Because food. India is the biggest food exporter to this whole area. Everybody will want you. Everybody will want to make friends with you. IMEC, India's best way out of this is get the IMEC points, create 2 or 3 alternate paths in the IMEC so that no one, this is called a single point of failure. Whenever you do any systems design, you don't get and create single points of failure. Hormuz is a single point of failure because everything has to come out through that. So create that and you'll be in a much better position. That's my 2 cents, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. We'll take the next question. Namaste to everyone. What happened to the uranium? Has Iran got the time to develop a bomb, or is the US in control of it? Look, it's there. It's still there. Uranium is there. There's no bombs, nothing so far. Right? And the US has not captured any island so far, so it's out of question. So we leave it at that. Okay. Is it plausible that this Middle East conflagration would spread eastwards into Pakistan? Israel would achieve its long-term vision. What would be the American gains? Now let's look. Don't look at the American gains. Let's just look at is it likely to spread into Pakistan? Shreya ji, your views.
Akash ji and all the others who are watching, you think Iran is, even if Iran gives up the entire uranium stash to US, you think they can't get it back? We have just discussed the whole today's episode was how things are moving underneath the radar, and so if China decides that we'll give them another bomb capability, they'll do it. It'll happen in plain sight. Unfortunately, there are many ways to camouflage this. Remember, viewers, that Iran's first 2 missiles, P1 and P2, I1 and IR1 and IR2, were nothing but Pakistan's P1 and P2, were sold by A.Q. Khan in Dubai. So the concept that a country is going to create its own atomic weapons, that also has fallen by the wayside. China has ruined that. China could even easily arm Pakistan. Even if you go and take out everything that you know of about atomic energy in Pakistan, they can still do it because they have a way in directly. So there is a bigger issue here. And I think what needs to happen is China needs to realize that you can want to be the superpower. The way you are going about it is all wrong. See how many friends you leave behind when you go and help them. In double quotes. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's look at the next one. Is Z's hide your flaws and ride your time working? It's not working. And tomorrow evening or sometime I'll do a complete rundown on what's China's takeaway from this whole story. Because you have to understand what's happening in China. I've been talking of it, but maybe tomorrow evening we'll talk of it in detail. Okay. US and Iran points for ceasefire are not matching with each other. So Pak has been given the task that kids do it in school. Match the following. Your views. Pak.
This is deliberate. This is deliberate. They want to. This is what Pakistan excels at. I mean, look at the thing. The Prime Minister is given text. Who gave it? That's another question. And he said that, okay, you tweet it out from your handle. The guy takes even that part. He doesn't even think that, oh, okay, less than the better.
Today, Pakistan is being blamed for giving one set of points to America and one set of points to Iran. See, the thing is, if there's a dog in between, it always gets squeezed. Okay, that's how it is. Okay. Yeah. Hello, sir. Would you take a live session for how would China economy do in the upcoming 5 years? I'll explain it to you tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow evening we'll do it. Okay. This is for Dushyant. I have one question about Clause. Do Clause publish books or do they sell books? Reason I'm asking is the publisher varies between books. Yeah, they sell books and they publish books also. So they have their own publishers, and it's not that they have one single publisher. They go with many publishers depending on the authors. Okay. Sree, we object when you support Trump versus GOI strategic autonomy. It's not a government which will sell India, not cheap oil at least. Well, I think you need to explain it to him because I think he's got you wrong.
Vicky, be a little patient and you need to go back and look at all the different videos. I mean, you may not have the time to look at all the videos, but let me tell you that this is not something that is new. I have been one of the first ones to talk about even the internal processes in India that need to be cleaned up. And unless you start taking a hammer to some of these things will still continue. I'll give you a practical difficulty today, Vicky. Think about, say you went to New Delhi, you took a trip to New Delhi, and you wanted to buy something substantial from New Delhi. Say you took 10 lakhs with you. Just imagine how hard it is to take 10 lakhs. Impossible today. So what you have to do is you'll find somebody there in Delhi said, listen, I need 10 lakhs. We do our own hawala kind of thing. I'll give you this. Can you get me this? So India has its own challenges. So does United States. All I'm trying to see is, look, these are all the challenges that exist in each country. And Trump's the best thing that happened after the Biden disaster, in my opinion. Look, you don't have a choice. If it goes back to Democrats, I'm afraid US will split into two. No doubt about it. This is my personal read. Having done a lot of things, heck, I've written a book about this. So please understand, things are much more active underneath the surface than what you see on the outside. China is very good at that. And that's what you're seeing outside now, one by one. Sir.
Okay. Akshay Iyer, thanks a lot for becoming a member for 8 months. Chennai issues NOTAM in Shanghai. Sorry for the off topic. No, that's okay. They would be issuing a NOTAM for doing various things. That's part of international thing. We also issue NOTAMs when we have to carry out any tests and all. Then of course, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, General Shankar, why do you always favor USA? Well, you want me to favor Iran? And say Iran and all its mullahs should win against USA. And then they start controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And then they control all the Gulf countries. And all your investment in China into the Gulf goes down the drain. And that IMEC will never come through. And then China will come in and have a ball here. Come on, man. Let's be real. We are living in a real world. Our interest today at this point of our interest today lies not in a resurgent or a expanding or a hegemonistic Iran. Iran has to become normal. Okay, I don't favor USA, but at this point of time, if USA puts an order out there, it is favorable to us. And whatever USA has done, whether you like it, love it or not, Whether it wins or loses, we are winning. So actually, we are the winners of this war. You have to understand what I say. That's quite foolish. Anyway, that's about all. That's how I leave it.
I
The
just
last
want to
thing-
add one thing, sir.
Yeah.
Just want to add one little thing to that. Many of you viewers are looking at this conflict emotionally and thinking that, oh, Trump abused us, Navarro abused us, the other joker, what's his name, the Commerce Secretary abused us, therefore we don't like. Don't
Quickly.
take out emotion for a minute. Okay, this is the way US does business. What did Modi do? Did he say a word against all these things? Take a look at what that other joker from Canada used to, Justin Trudeau. He used to support the farmers' agitation in Punjab, and when it came to his own truckers agitating against him, you know what he did? He froze all their bank accounts. Did Modi go and tell them that I'm in support of the truckers? After all, the truckers, 60% of the truckers are of Indian origin. See, there are things that you do right and there are things that you do wrong. So don't get emotional about some of these things and say, okay, because US said all these things, therefore, we're going to support Iran. What General Shankar is saying is absolutely spot on. They are fighting our fight. Today, Israel may be alone, but India could easily become the next Israel, the way things are going. That is the trend. Please understand that.
No problem. Okay.
Next one, please.
Did
Go ahead.
Did USA troops take out anything from Iran while rescuing their pilots? Yeah, your view on this, and then we'll close it.
Even if they did, Dilip, you will not know. They had 100 plus people who had landed in an old airstrip, which is believed to be only 50 kilometers from the Isfahan site. But let me ask you this question. This is what became apparent in today's discussion, isn't it? Iran national boundaries are no longer meaningful anymore. Things are going beyond that. If somebody is perceived to be having something less, somebody else who has more of it will make sure that somebody who has less will be made full. This is a much bigger problem. Let's see how this plays out. It's not an easy thing to solve. Sir.
Yeah, I think we are done for the day. We've taken a lot of questions. Okay, there's one question which has come. Why we have a main mindset that trading in US dollar only the white business and all other currencies are black? Each country has its own way to trade. Look, you have not understood the whole global financial system. In the global financial system, the dollar has the maximum amount in the reserve currencies. But that doesn't mean the other reserve currencies are not there. Okay, China the yuan is also part of the reserve currency. The euro is also part of the reserve currency. The pound is part of the euro currency reserve. I mean, as part of the global reserve. So is France, the franc. But their shares are very less. It's the dollar which dominates everything, and that is because the petroleum and the energy settlements have to be done through the dollar. It's a dollar-denominated world. Who's stopping you from trading with others? We are doing rupee trade with quite a few countries. UPI is now open in Dubai, so there's a rupee trade going on. No one is stopping you. Okay, no one is stopping you. But if you think you can supplant the dollar, then you're in a wrong world. You can't. This is the way the world is. This is the world architecture. Okay, you don't like the dollar, kill it. Now, what is the alternative to that? Yuan. Can you trust him? Or rupee? Do you have the strength to do that? You just see the way our markets are just pretty collapsing because some money has flown. See, please understand that it's nice to be emotional. Oh, dollar is useless. USA is useless. If you ask a good economist, he will tell you all the deficits which USA is taking on its head to run the dollar system.
Correct.
All your surpluses are his deficits. It takes a very tough country to handle it. I mean, someday I'll get that guy who I read. I don't know if I can get him. You read Michael Pettis, and he explains. Michael Pettis is a American who settled in China, and he's a professor in Tsinghua University. and he's a foremost economist on Chinese economy, and he explains how because the dollar is the reserve currency, how much deficits USA has to run, okay, to balance out global surpluses. So please don't just think, unidimensionally. You have to look at it from the realism of what the world is all about, right? I thought I'll take this because this is important for everyone to understand.
Yeah.
I think we've done for the day. We have had a tremendous discussion. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Good Morning India, 9 o'clock as usual. Until then, Shree, thanks a lot for joining in, and for all people who are from P Gurus and Gunner Shot and Strategic Frontlines. Have a great day. Namaskar and Jai Hind.